Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. One of the more exciting bowl games just concluded. I didn't think this one would be particularly close, but I was not giving enough credit to the Tulane Green Wave as they win a nail-biter against USC. We're hopping on not necessarily to talk about the game as much as what's going on at USC and especially on that defensive side of the ball. Is it time for a change? Lincoln Riley was asked that after the game. Didn't really want to get into it before we get into it, though. Again, I just want to say thank you guys for the support you guys have shown the channel. It truly means a lot. We love talking college football with you guys. And if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We're going to be talking a lot of USC football over the offseason because, hey, they have the Heisman Trophy winner coming back for another year. It's an exciting team. Lincoln Riley has USC buzzing, but that defensive side of the ball, certainly not buzzing. Dale, I'm going to kick it off to you. What are your initial thoughts here?
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Lincoln Riley didn't really say that he has a particularly high level of confidence in Alex Grinch, which I don't know how he could. And the amount of points they were giving up all year, yeah, not great. But I think the big issue is like the fundamentals, they just aren't even close on. Like they don't tackle well. They have a lot of busts in coverage. They just do like very small, basic things. I think not at the level you want. And I think Lincoln Riley, frankly, I don't think he thinks it's at the level because he even called the tackling very alarming. That's his quote. And if you can't tackle, you can't play defense. And this isn't like the first issue I think Alex Grinch has had with this, because you go back to his Oklahoma film, even with good teams that he's had time to put his recruits into the system, especially 2021, they still didn't really play great defense at any point. So I don't know. Lincoln Riley came over with Alex Grinch, seems to have some level of confidence in him for whatever reason, but I don't know. I got to think his patience might be wearing a little thin because this just wasn't good enough.
That was one of the more surprising like I never thought, I don't get the hype around Alex Grinch. Even like Oklahoma fans kind of liked him. You look at that defense, like they were putting out elite talent into the NFL, and their defense was never like dominant, I wouldn't say. And yeah, it plays in the Big 12 where it's hard to put up really stout defensive numbers. But in 2021, I mean, you're putting guys like Perrion Wimpy, Nick Benito, Brian Asamoah, a ton of studs into the NFL draft, and you're just not a very strong defense. I had questions about Alex Grinch and how good of a defensive coordinator he really was. And at UNC, now in his defense, this was a revolving door of players. And so, like, the depth really wasn't there at USC. Like, they have some decent starters like Shane Lee through the portal, Gentry through the portal. But in terms of, like, depth, especially on the defensive line, you don't have a ton of great depth on that. So that could be a problem and maybe some lenience for Alex Grinch. But hard to argue with you that this defense was –
I get that argument for USC, but again, I go back to it. I don't think this is like the first time you've seen these type of issues rear their head. Like, I don't think Oklahoma ever tackled at a phenomenally high level when Alex Grinch was the DC. And even that, I don't know. I get people saying there's not a ton of talent in USC. He hasn't had his time yet, but in all honesty, there are some good players. I mean, even in addition to the guys you mentioned, you got a Mekhi Blackman over from Colorado. You got high recruits like a Sayre Wright. You got big time players like Tulane. I think you had enough to be respectable, and this defense wasn't even in the ballpark of respectable. And you can't let it happen. You can't have this next year because this is your time to win. When you have a quarterback as good as
Caleb Williams, like you forget the Heisman Trophy winner, all good.
You can't play that defense and waste his time there, because he's a guy who, if you even have a solid defense around him, you have a great chance at making some real noise. And I'm talking like national championship type noise in college.
And Caleb Williams was absolutely phenomenal today, and you're going to get guys like Mario Williams back. Those numbers are gross, and they're going to be able to run the foot. Like, I'm really high on this USC team coming in. I'm with you. Like, the defense, and I don't know if they're going to attack the transfer portal. I don't know if it's going to come through developing, but you look at what this USC defense was all year. They were kind of like, they were being overrated because they forced a lot of turnovers. I mean, they forced, I believe, 21 turnovers in like their first 5 games, like averaging a stupid amount of turnovers per game. And like their defense, like you go watch the Stanford game, one of the first games of the season, like Tanner McKee and those Stanford Cardinals, who really couldn't move the ball on many people this year, were moving the ball up and down on USC. They gave like two turnovers in the red zone. They were turning the ball over a lot in general. And so like the defense looked like it was a little better than it was. But once you take those turnovers away, like teams are averaging almost 5 yards per carry against this unit.
And you can't be turnover reliant against the big dogs. Like when Utah comes into town, you know that when you got a quarterback like that, you just can't take the ball away that often. When you play like a Washington or some of these other good teams next year, like that they're going to need to get through to go to the national title. Oregon, like I just don't think you can be so reliant on turnovers and leave so much of your defense exposed in ways like, again, you just go back to tackling. How can you miss so many tackles? Like you just can't win football games. And again, like I suppose you can maybe say give Alex Grinch another shot and give him more time, but I don't know. I think he's had.
I agree. It's a big year.
He had time at Oklahoma, and it's a huge year.
This is a massive year, and I want to go back to like actually evaluating this defense because like when you told me you wanted to like record this, now I'm kind of with you on this. Like this USC defense was like it wasn't good. Like numbers wise, like they were allowing also 66% completion percentage in the secondary. You're making these big plays, but they're also giving up so many yards. And when the turnover well dries up, like you saw in like this kind of game, like the defense couldn't get off the field. And it was just, I mean, Tulane could pretty much have whatever they wanted at times. And it's not because of a lack of talent. This USC team, you look at their depth chart, guys like Corey Foreman, too, you didn't mention. This is a good team. They need to figure out this defense. I wonder where they could go. I mean, if I'm a defensive coordinator, like this is a prime spot for me.
He's just pick of the litter. I mean, he has the money, he has the brand, he has the excitement. I think he can target a fair amount of D coordinators in this game and pull them away even from good-sized schools. So, again, it's not like you're stuck with Alex Grinch, I don't think. I think if Lincoln wanted to make a move and crank it up and get a big dog, I think he could do it. And I personally think it's time because I just go back. I would hate to see USC waste Caleb Williams' last year because he's going to be elite. The talent's going to be there again. I mean, Raleek Brown is looking like he's going to be a really good player, and he's coming on. I mean, again, you mentioned Mario Williams, really good player. So
they're going to be sick on the offensive side of the ball, and more importantly, the offense is coming back in the Pac-12. Like they're no joke next year. Like Oregon with Bo Nix, Michael Penix at Washington, like you're going to need a good defense to want to win the Pac-12. And obviously Utah's still going to be good. So this is going to be an interesting story to monitor. I'm kind of interested to see what happens. And Lincoln Riley, like one of the last storylines I would have thought would be like Lincoln Riley getting rid of his DC who's followed him from Oklahoma to USC.
But I feel like we were all a little surprised he wanted him to come over. It's like
most people weren't.
He's holding him back at Oklahoma too.
I don't get it. Like I never got the Alex Grinch hype train. Like he's like one of the best defensive minded guys in the college football. Like no, he's not. His defenses are never good. He might acquire talent, but his talent, like in terms of like putting out good defenses that are statistically good, it doesn't happen. And it was a debacle this year that was getting kind of just like covered up by turnovers. This is an interesting story. Again, we're gonna hop off, but appreciate you guys checking us out. Let us know in the comment section, especially the USC fans, like what's the vibe going into 2023?
I am interested to know what they're thinking because I know just myself, I'm a big like, all right, if the coaches are bad, just cut it loose and do it quicker and rather.
That is
like,
true.
And that would have been, at least in my personal world of like being a Michigan fan, I was on the get rid of Harbaugh train at the end of 2020. And I mean, so like I'm not like even trying to say I know anything about how to like run a program, but I don't know. I feel like it might be time for Lincoln to move on. I'm sure he'll make the right decision, but
Tulane got the ball back with like a minute 50 left and one timeout. And I was like, they're going to win this game. Like it was a lock. I had zero confidence in USC coming up and making a stand. Zero, because this defense stinks. Again, appreciate you guys. If you do enjoy the content, subscribe down below. We'll talk to y'all later.